Thank you very much. I'll give you a little bit of my perspective where I'm coming from. I spent most of my career in aircraft manufacturing, large companies like this, 70, 80,000 people. So I kind of understand how it works in there. And I never really planned to be a co-founder of a robot startup at the age of 50, but that's the wonderful thing about life and careers these days. So I'm going to try to give you a perspective kind of how we tried to find and achieve excellence, and how I think our experiences can help you. That's what I understood of the function. And I'll start with a kind of a negative, what excellence isn't. When I joined the company, it was a couple of months after its registration, and we were like all startups, we're finding our way, what's our product, what's our market, and all this. But we had excellence everywhere. Our tagline was crafting excellence. We had excellence on the wall, excellence on the computer screen, everywhere, but really not much in execution. And that's the first thing that I noticed. I thought we were okay. And so I started telling the CEO, at the beginning, I wanted to review every email going out, everything, because everything I thought had to be brought to a higher level. And in the end, all the co-founders agreed. So excellence isn't about what you say about yourself. It's about what your customers and your partners say. So what you think is kind of irrelevant. That's the market out there. It's like visionary. When people put, I'm a visionary on their LinkedIn profile, I just skip it because you're not the one who decides. It's the people who listen to you, whether you're a visionary or not. From our perspective, I'm sure all of you have, when you think of robots, the first thing you think of is in Croatia. You might think of, hey, it has good beaches, good sailing, pretty good soccer team. But robots isn't what you think of, because there isn't a long history of companies like that there. So when we started, it was like, well, how are we going to sell robots to Germans and Americans from Croatia? And really, there is really no special recipe, magic recipe for doing it. There's just one recipe. You kind of have to be better than all the best. So one thing, a mantra that I introduced and we started adopting was we have to be better Germans than the Germans, better Americans than the Americans. And in that perspective, Germans, we meant engineering and manufacturing, which I still think are at the top of their game in many sectors. And sales and marketing, you can't really beat the Americans. They really know how to tell a story, whether it's movies or products or anything like that. So if you're going to succeed from kind of a marginal outpost, to be honest, Croatia, you have to beat those kinds of companies. And you have to make executives of companies like DB Schenker comfortable. The executives are generally risk averse, but they want to be seen going forward. So how do you give them that magic combination of going forward, but not risking their careers in the company? So you have to do that. And the other thing we found was, and I found through my career, and I've managed in Canada, the United States, Germany, Croatia now, is that no country owns excellence. Excellence isn't a German concept or a Japanese concept or a Chinese concept. If you're in a sector, it's excellence is excellent, and you can feel it. Now, I'll give you an example. When we started, I also used to say the widespread adoption of robots throughout industry is more a function of psychology than technology. So we have 97% of our 74 people are engineers, and I'm one of the few, 3 or 4, who isn't. They say, well, what do you mean? We're all about technology. But really, when you look at it, human beings always solve technology. We kind of fail at the implementation, the psychology. So if we didn't do the job of communicating that excellence, so that excellence is the product, that excellence is the support, that excellence is the user experience, the chances of us succeeding were pretty low. So what we've done is, even minor issues where you would say, how is your user manual written? Usually user manuals are terribly written, and nobody gets them. We spent hundreds of hours on the user manual because we wanted people to say, hey, I understand this. Hey, I want to adopt this. I'm part of this thing. The other thing we did was we overspent on some things. We actually printed them because we knew who the users were. We knew these are operational people. They don't go, hey, let me get my laptop. This is a forklift driver or a forklift team leader. Let me get my laptop to see what the operation is. It doesn't work that. Make it easy for him. We looked at paper. We went with heavier paper. So we would have a feeling. That's what I'm talking about. Excellence is a feeling. You walk in and you say, wow, this is an organization. Look at the way it's designed. Look at the way it's furnished. Look at the people that are sitting there. Wow, they're fascinating. They do all these things. And it's a whole package. It's not one thing. There's no magic bullet. And I'm good on time. I'm fairly passionate about these things, and I get going, and then I've got to make sure I don't bore you and break these rules. The other thing you find is, and particularly I know this having worked in larger companies. So when I worked for an aircraft manufacturer, at that point we had 90% of the market in regional jets. And I remember, this is a company called Bombardier. I can tell you now, I left 1999, so there's nothing I could tell you that you wouldn't see all over the internet. But you could already see an arrogance building into the organization because we were so successful, which is a normal human trait. I mean, you see it in sports, you see it in corporate life and all that stuff. And I remember when we had a team going to American Airlines to bid on a 450 aircraft order. So a couple of $1 billion, it's very good. And it was Friday and they were going to prepare over the weekend and they were flying to Dallas. And I said, good luck. They said, we don't need luck. Who's going to buy a Brazilian aircraft? That was Embraer, a company that was starting to rise. And I said, don't be silly. 10 years ago, people said, who's going to buy a Canadian aircraft? And look at us now, we have 9% of the market. So that was one of the reasons I decided to leave, because I could see that this was kind of becoming endemic throughout the organization. We're just so great, we're so great. Okay, I left because I was young and I wanted to move and I wanted to build the next Bombardier. And I did go on to the United States and Germany to try to do that. But that kind of attitude has killed many a company. And so an excellence isn't a state which you kind of own. You kind of borrow it for a little time, and then tomorrow you wake up and you try to borrow it again. Because as soon as you think it's yours, you're gone. In terms of how we want to help you, a lot of corporations are contacting now. It's really fashionable to work with startups, which is great for us. But we have to make a working relationship. And I'm going to go out on a limb, but I've done it before on this. I'll say, Paul Graham is one of the gods of the startup scene. He's one of the co-founders of Y Combinator, hugely successful, and Facebook, Uber investor. But he's wrong. He talks about, he made his success in SaaS, software as a service, in consumer markets generally. So most of his advice, when you read it on the internet, people think, oh, I learned management on the internet. You don't really. You need to kind of manage to learn it and become excellent at it. And they say, well, we have to do this. And we really have to be excellent in where we are, we have to see where our market is. Our market is the enterprise market, billion-dollar companies. Our market is hardware. Our robots are 300 kilograms. Our robots are expensive. They're actually more sophisticated cars. So it's not going to happen that an executive is going to read about our robot, say, I want 10 of those, email all his friends, say, hey, you should buy 10 too, and tomorrow I sell 1 million. It doesn't work that way. So you have a lot of mantras in the startup scene where it's, you fake it till you make it, minimum viable product. I can tell you, I'd have a hard time selling you a minimum viable product. I'd have a hard time selling you a faked product or fake expertise. A lot of that doesn't work. A lot of it, even with the high-tech startup scene, is about old-fashioned foundations, about building, having the best people. And in our case, we have 10 PhDs and 38 masters in robotics and artificial intelligence, which makes us the largest team in that sector in Europe. Excellent people, building excellent products and trying to make them better every day. So the companies like yours can use them to use their people in a much better way. So more higher value added work where the people enjoy it more, where the company makes more money, is more efficient, has more throughput, both from its people and its assets. And so that's my take on excellence. I hope I haven't bored you, and I hope you can find some use with this. Thank you.